Buying cheap meat sounds like a good deal at first, but it comes with a cost. Some disturbing studies have found cheap meat is not always made up of what you think you're buying. So when it comes to meat, buying the expensive cut is always the best choice. So why is meat so cheap? How is it possible for a fast food chain to sell 2 hamburgers with drinks and sides for $5? Americans spend the least amount of money on food compared to other countries, so we expect our food to be cheap. The average American spends just 9.5% of his or her disposable income on food. It seems the answer to cheap food lies in how the animals are kept and treated. The rise of large factory farms has kept meat cheap, but at what cost? Former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Dan Glickman told PBS we tend to take our food for granted and don't pay much attention to how it ends up on our plates. Large factory farms are efficient but have their own problems, such as animal waste and water quality. Because the cows and other animals must be kept in close quarters, they can easily pass bacteria to one another. The World Cancer Research Fund has made a startling declaration.
Often beloved meats like sausage, bacon, ham, and hot dogs can cause certain types of cancer.
In addition, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, better known as the IARC, concluded that cheap processed meat is now officially a carcinogen, which means it causes cancer. The agency also labeled all red meat as a probable carcinogen. Processed meat is a cheap alternative to more expensive cuts and includes hot dogs, deli meat, bacon, sausage, and ham. In the UK, 54% of bowel cancer cases are linked to lifestyle factors, and half of those are from processed meat. Eating these meats every day can increase risk for colorectal cancer by as much as 18%. Factory farms don't sound like humane places to live, let alone be slaughtered. Research has shown how cows are slaughtered actually affects the quality of the meat produced from them. According to the slaughtering guidelines posted by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the animal's muscles contain glycogen, which is converted to lactic acid after slaughter. Having that lactic acid produces tender, flavorful meat. When the animal becomes stressed before slaughter, they use up all their glycogen stores, which means less lactic acid. Of course, this means tough, bland meat, but it also raises some serious questions about how we're treating these animals. When you buy local, grass-fed beef, you're supporting farmers who care about the quality and environment of their animals and meats. Because these farmers raise fewer animals and spend more to take care of them, they must charge more for their meat. Putting in the time to find responsible and ethical farmers in your area is worth it. Because it would be nearly impossible to keep a massive factory farm perfectly clean, there are going to be infections floating around. To prevent these infections, factory farmers feed the livestock small doses of antibiotics to promote growth and keep infections at bay. Actually, feeding animals antibiotics can cause them to grow as much as 3% more, which means more money when you sell that meat. Because this level of antibiotic use isn't enough to actually kill off bacteria, these farms are creating antibiotic-resistant bacteria. This means that the antibiotics we've always relied on to cure our infections are now less effective. According to microbiologist Dr. Glenn Morris, these tiny doses of antibiotics can lead to big health problems. If you were to eat meat that was contaminated with this antibiotic-resistant bacteria and become ill, your body might not respond to traditional antibiotics like it should. According to U.S. News and World Report, traces of the antibiotics administered to animals can be found in the meat we buy and consume, a danger that especially affects younger children. A study conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports,
every year, more than 2 million people in the United States get infections resistant to antibiotics designed to fight them.
This can be partially blamed on the decreasing effectiveness of the antibiotics given to livestock and overprescribed to people by doctors. A majority of those infections directly affect children under the age of 5. Cheap meat doesn't just mean a cruel environment for the animals. Everyone's environment will suffer. On traditional farms, animal waste can be used to fertilize crops. In a large factory farm, there aren't enough crops to use up all that waste, so it has to go somewhere. The waste is shipped away and can end up leaking into waterways and lagoons. In Iowa alone, the Department of Natural Resources found that 99 waterways were contaminated enough to kill the fish. According to Science magazine, the increasing demands for huge quantities of cheap meat is a phenomenon that greatly affects the Earth's biodiversity.
The Greenies say raising beef contributes to global warming.
A 2014 Guardian report notes that while many people believe transportation vehicles contribute most to pollution, the meat industry actually creates more greenhouse gas emissions than all automobiles, planes, trains, and ships combined. The cited study shows that 15% of emissions come from livestock, and most of that is traced back to the beef and dairy industries. The folks at PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, were pleased with the findings.
This report confirmed what PETA has been saying for years, that we are headed towards environmental catastrophe if we don't change the way we eat.
So buying more expensive meats may be harder on your wallet, but it'll benefit you in just about every other way imaginable. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more MASH videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.